So everyone has at one point or the other been part of this data analysis in our programming class, and I just we sat down to think we should have like a revision class to like see how far each of us has gone, and then have like a more structured approach to our data analysis work. So that's how we came up with this revision course. So we will still follow our usual pattern, but this will be more like project based. We're going to work on a particular kind of real life data from beginning to end, so that we see the pattern of flow from getting your data set into RStudio and then going through all the processes of data analysis and management, and yeah, getting our results eventually. So without further ado, I'm just going to start. Usually we start with our RStudio, but I've prepared some slides that I want us to start with, just to have a refresher on what we've done so far. Then we can take it up from there. So I'm gonna share my screen. Dr. Femi Ale, welcome to the class. Thank you for joining. I'm gonna share my screen now, and then we'll continue from there. Yeah. Okay, can you confirm that you can see my screen and you can hear me?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, fine, good. So so data analysis training are what we call our DARP course. So like I said, I have the assumption that everyone in this class here has undergone our training at one time or the other. So I'm going to move a bit fast, but if I'm moving too fast, stop me and ask any questions. And in the WhatsApp chat group, I had asked that we look at a video I shared and then have questions or clarifications. So before we start the training, does anyone have any questions or clarifications from the video we shared? Anyone? Can I get an answer whether yes or no?
Not for now.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start off this. So why R? I mean, there are other statistical softwares that we can use, but why should we use R? Okay, so R is free, especially for us in this part of the world, with all the economic situation and stuff. So R is free, right? We don't have to pay any subscriptions like on other statistical softwares that we use, like Stata, SPSS, and stuff. We don't have to pay any subscription. It's open source, so it's people all around the world come into R, and in fact, people write codes, write packages, and put into R. So anyone anywhere in the world can just do that. If you decide tomorrow that there's some kind of functions that you want to develop in R, you can write the functions for it, make it into a package, send to the R group, and if it's authenticated, it will become a function or a package in R. So it's open source. R is reproducible, and this is a very important thing, especially in research. People want to see how you have developed or how you have derived your analysis. So once you finish writing your code and you send it to anyone, the person can run the same code and produce exactly the same reports that you produce. So R is reproducible. R is repeatable. This came into very good use when we had the Ebola outbreak, when field epidemiologists had to produce reports most like on a daily basis. With some other tools, you might have to run the same analysis every day, and that could be cumbersome and tiring. But with R, once you've written the first set of codes, all you need to do is just press a button, and once additional data comes into your data set, it just updates your analysis. So with that, R is repeatable. And then one beautiful thing about R again is its ability to produce automated reports. A friend of mine that does some fantastic work with Stata complains about this, because once you finish analysis in Stata, you have to copy each table physically like that and put into your Word document. But in R, you can immediately translate everything you've done in your analysis onto either a Word document or a PDF or a PowerPoint or HTML, whichever platform you want. So R is able to produce automated reports in that respect. Okay, Professor Che, I think you're unmuted. Okay, so let's move ahead. Oh, why is this not moving? Okay, so I think I have to mute someone here. Okay, so R and RStudio. So people get to confuse this sometimes. They just install RStudio in their system and just expect that it will work. So RStudio is just a user-friendly environment that you use to work in R. It doesn't replace the R that you use, right? So it's just a user-friendly environment, right? Okay, so R is the main statistical software itself that does all the work. So when I use a car to describe R and RStudio, I call R as the engine of the car that does the actual driving work. And then RStudio will be all the other parts of the car that enable you have a friendly driving experience. So your steering wheel, your gear, your side view mirrors, and all those other things around the car that help you have a comfortable driving experience. But the engine itself that is doing the work is R. So that's the difference between R and RStudio. And when you want to work in R, you need to install both R and RStudio in your system. But after installing both of this, when you want to work, you don't need to open up R any longer, because once you open up RStudio, it automatically connects to the R in your system. So once you've installed both of them and you're ready to start work, all you need to do is to open up your RStudio, and then it connects to the R in your system. However, when you open up only R, this is what you see. This picture you can see on the screen now. That's what you see when you open up only R. And people that learned R before the advent of RStudio, people that are well versed in programming, they are actually just working with just this R, you know. But for people like us that don't have a programming background, RStudio was created so that we can still have a more friendly environment than just being intimidated by just seeing codes, you know. So this is your R. Then this will be what your RStudio will look like. So this is your RStudio. RStudio has four panes or four windows or four quadrants, whichever one you want to call it. So this is how RStudio presents. And if you look closely, this lower left quadrant where my pointer is, you can see console. This quadrant is actually R itself. So it's R in this lower left quadrant, and then the other three quadrants here are just like the friendly environment that R works with. So you have a script, a source quadrant, you have this other quadrant where that can show you tables and graphs and what have you. And then you have this other one up here where R stores objects and stuff. So all these other three by the side help you have a friendly working environment with R. Again, I'm going to show you R. So you can see where my pointer is, it says R console. And if I go down again here, you can see console here. So this quadrant here is the R in your RStudio. Okay. So again, RStudio has 4 quadrants and it's numbered in this pattern. So you have quadrant 1, the upper left quadrant, and then it now goes in an anti-clockwise direction. So you have 2 here, 3 here, and 4 here, right? So this numbering have relevance. They have some significance. So you need to know which quadrant is which. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. The relevance of this numbering is that you can zoom in and out of each of the quadrants when you want to have a better view of that quadrant. When we get into the practicality of RStudio, I'll show us how that is done. Okay. Okay, so let's look at each quadrant one by one. So the first quadrant, can everyone still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
awesome.
sir. Yeah,
Very good. Okay. So the first quadrant is what we call the source quadrant, right? So the source quadrant displays 3 different things in it. So it displays your R script. So R script is just like your, let me just use a Word document to describe it, a Word document where you write your codes in R. So that's one of the things that is displayed in the source quadrant, right? So codes are written and executed in this script. And the way you execute the code is by pressing Control and Enter button at the same time, right? Another thing that is displayed on your source quadrant is the R Markdown script. The one I said is used for automated reports. So your R Markdown script is also displayed on your source quadrant, right? And then it also displays your data frames or your data sets that you import into R. So those are the 3 main things that you can display in your source quadrant: the R script, the R Markdown script, and your data frames or your data sets, right? Okay, so codes that are written in your R script can be saved like the way you save a Word document. So once you've written codes in your R script, you can save that script so that you can return to it at a later time. And that is the difference between writing codes in your source quadrant, which is quadrant 1, than writing them in your second quadrant, which is the console, right? So in the console, you can also write commands, just like you can write in the source quadrant. However, the codes that are written in the console cannot be saved like the way you save your R script. After writing any code in your console, once you close RStudio, that code wipes away, and you lose that code. So that's why it's important that all our codes that will be part of our analysis be written in the source quadrant in your R script so that you can save them. However, you can also write codes. Let's say you're writing a code in your R script, and maybe you just want to check out something with another code. You can do that in your console so that you don't interrupt the flow of codes in your R script, right? Okay, so To run a command in your console, you just press enter. Remember we said in the R script, it's control enter, but in your console, you just press enter to run that code. And then every code that is written in your source quadrant, right? Once you run that, all outputs of executed commands are displayed in your console. All outputs of any command that you execute in your source, in your R script or your source quadrant is displayed in the console, except two outputs, which I will tell us later. But know that all commands that you execute in your script is displayed, the output is displayed in your console, right? And then the console also displays warning messages and also displays error messages, right? And then we said the written codes cannot be saved, okay? So we move ahead. Now, quadrant 3 has about 5 tabs on it. We'll see all this when we get into our RStudio, but I just want to give us highlights of them. So you have your file, your plots, your packages, and your help, right? So your file in your third quadrant is where R stores all documents of a project. So any projects you create, R stores everything related to that project under your files, right? So this includes things like your scripts, your data sets, your plots, your Word documents, whatever thing you save regarding that project, R stores it under your files. Then plots. Remember I told you every output from your executed commands are displayed in your console. However, I said except two things. One of them is your plot. So any graphical output that results from your command, R displays them under your plot tab. Any graphical output that is from your command, R does not display it in your console, R displays it in the plot tab, right? And then you also have packages. Packages is where R displays all the packages in R which have been installed and stored in your system's R library. So R works with things we call packages. We'll look at them later. So any package that you have downloaded into your system, R stores them within these packages, okay? There's another tab I've missed out here. It's called the viewer. And under the viewer is where R displays your HTML-like tables. We call them HTML-like tables. So those tables that you see in journal articles, those very fine tables. So R stores displays those tables under viewer. We'll see that when we get into our RStudio environment. The fourth quadrant, sorry, I missed help. So when you need R to explain anything, maybe about a function or a package, you can easily do that by asking R to help you. Okay, so, and you just do that by typing a question mark and then type whatever thing you want help with. So let's assume we want R to tell us about the median function. So we just type question mark and write median and run that command, and R will tell us, give us explain what the median function does. Finally, the fourth quadrant has about 3 or 4 tabs. It has the environment, which is where R displays all saved objects, whether they are imported, modified, or created. All objects are saved under the environment. And then you have your history, which is where R displays a record of all the codes and outputs that you have executed in the console or in the source quadrant. And then you also have the tutorial, which is where R offers a self-paced free R tutorial. So having said this, I will open up our RStudio now so that we can just see what we've talked about. Any questions thus far?
No.
No.
Okay. So usually when you first open up your RStudio, usually it appears something like this. You see 3 quadrants like this, right? Then to get the 4th quadrant, there's this icon here that looks like a window overlapping another window. Can you see where my pointer is? Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so once we just click on it, the 4th quadrant will appear. So don't get confused when you open up and you see just 3 quadrants. Usually when you open up RStudio, it shows as 3 quadrants, except you've been working on it for long. But usually if you open up a new RStudio, you only see 3 quadrants. And then you can just come and click on this and the 4th quadrant will appear. So like I mentioned, this upper left one is your quadrant 1. The lower one is quadrant 2. To the right is quadrant 3. And to up is quadrant 4. And I said the significance of this numbering is that you can zoom in and out of each quadrant with those numberings. So by pressing Ctrl-Shift and the number of the quadrant, you zoom in and out of that quadrant. So assuming I want to zoom into quadrant 2, which is the one where my pointer is, I'll do Ctrl-Shift and I press 2, it zooms into 2. Can you see that? And then if I do Ctrl-Shift-2 again, it comes back to the 4 quadrants. If I wanted to go into the first, zoom into the first quadrant, I will do Ctrl-Shift-1, it zooms into the first quadrant, and then Ctrl-Shift-1 again, it zooms out. Is this procedure clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Good.
Yeah,
So I mentioned that you can view 3 things in your source quadrant, right? I mentioned that you can view your R script. So what we're looking at here is an R script. Let me zoom into it again. So this is an R script where you write your codes. Just like like I said, like a Word document where you just write down all of your codes. So it's called an R script, right? I also mentioned that you can view an R Markdown script. And that is the script that you use to generate automated reports. We'll see that at the end of this training when we are generating our report. So I'm going to skip that for now. And then I mentioned that another thing you can view on your source quadrant is your data frame or your data set. So for example, this, let me see if this is, okay, you can see this is a data set, right? So you can view your R scripts, your R Markdown scripts, and your data frames in your source quadrant, right? In quadrant 2, okay, and then we had mentioned that if you're going to run a code, so let's assume I say I want to run mean of 4, 5, 8. Control Enter. So you can see I wrote, please can you mute yourself? There's another sound I'm hearing from here. Okay, so I just wrote this code. So mean is a function in R, and I wanted to find the mean of all of these numbers, right? Of 4, 5, and 8. So I just wrote mean and then put the numbers. And then to run it, I press Control Enter. and then it will run. But if I want to run a code in the console, let's say 4 plus 5, all I need to do is just to press enter and it will run. So to run a code in the source quadrant is Control Enter. To run it in the console is just enter. You can also run a code by clicking this run button. Can you see this run button where my pointer is? Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for example,
Yes,
if I
sir.
do 5 minus 3 and I click on run, you can see it displays the answer in the console, 5 minus 3, and it says the answer is 2. If I do 7 times 9 and I do Control Enter, you can see it displays the code 7 times 9 and it tells me the answer is 63. So you can either use Control Enter or you can do run. And then you can select, you can highlight the codes and also either press Control Enter or run. So you can do multiple codes at once or you can do one code at once. So let's assume I wanted to run these 2 codes together. So I can highlight both of them and then I click on run. And you can see it will run both of them for me. But if I just click, highlight just one and run only one, it will run only that one for me. Okay? Are we good up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go to quadrant 3. And I said all outputs of any command you execute in your source quadrant, you get the output in your console, except 2 things. And those 2 things are your graphical output, which R gives to you under plots here in the in quadrant 3, and your HTML-like tables, which R gives to you under viewer. So you can see all these codes that we've run, all of them, the output is in the console. But just see now, if I run, let's see, for now, Star Wars, and right, for example. Oh, I have not installed my packages. Sorry, just a minute. I'm just going to install packages here before I continue. Okay, so can you see, I just ran this command, this one, but it didn't give me the output in the console. It gave me the output under plots. Can you see that? Can you see this? Can I get the response so that I can know you guys are following?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to do a
Yes,
table.
yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do a table. So I'll do a table of Star Wars. Let's see, icon. Okay. So, and then I'm going to do the same table here at the Star Wars. Type. Color. And then TBL underscore summary. Okay, so these 2 codes are written, the code on line 114 and line 116 to 118. They're supposed to produce the same output. I just want a table of a variable within this data set called Star Wars. I'll run 2 of them and then I'll explain what I mean. So this first one is just a normal table in R. So if I run it, can you see the output in the console. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can see it. I can see it actually.
Okay, please, I
Yes.
need you guys to be responding so that I will know when it is network
Yes.
problem or you guys. So just try and respond. Okay, so the code in line 114,
I can see it actually.
yeah, the code in line 114 produce the output that we're seeing in the console. But if I run the second code, Control Enter, so you can see this same output that we saw previously in the console is the same output. It's just giving us the frequency table of eye color variable. But you can see this one on the right are the kind of tables you see in journal articles. So when you want this kind of tables, R does not give it to you in the console. It gives it to you in the viewer, under this viewer. So again, all outputs from any code you execute happens in your console, except if they are graphical outputs, which R gives to you in your plots, or if they are interactive tables, which R gives to you under viewer. Is that concept clear?
Yes.
Sir, can you go over it again, please, sir?
I said every output, every code that you type, that you run in your script, R gives you the output in your console, right? Except two kinds of outputs. So if the output is going to be a graph, it does not show in your console. It shows under these plots, under this place, this tab called plots.
Okay.
If the output is an interactive table, it shows under viewer.
Okay.
But every other output, I will give it to you on inside the console.
In the console. Okay, all right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. It does.
Okay.
Yes, it does, sir.
Okay. So we have
Yes, it does.
less than a minute. So this session will go off in this time, we'll time off, and then in 10 minutes time, we'll come back for the next session. Is that okay?
That's
Yes,
fine.
sir.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you very much,
Yes.
guys.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, boss.